There are a few things going on in my head right now. But right before I pressed play on this video, the idea to do a types of people I don't trust video came up. I don't know why, because I've been thinking about a lot of different things. I've been thinking about time traveling. I've been thinking, and what that truly is. I've been thinking about how to know that you found the right partner. I've been thinking about a lot of different things, but that's where I want to start. And then hopefully, maybe in some sort of amazing way, we can get all of those topics into types of people that I don't trust. So the first person is going to be, and this could be controversial because, yeah, but this is like something that I've always believed. And so, and when I say people I don't trust, it means people that are just not, I know for sure that that person is not in alignment with me. We could never vibe together because our energies are going to be too off. We're just too different. Okay, so then the first person, I don't know why I'm over explaining this one. It's like, okay, because you know why? Because so many people suffer from this. I've met so many people who suffer from this, and I don't like want to judge others. So maybe really this is like me trying to explore and understand why people have this problem and like get to the bottom of it. And so people who have trouble sleeping, people who are insomniacs, I don't trust insomniacs. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I just don't understand it because I have always been a person who sleeps a lot. I probably sleep more than I should. I like, if something's wrong, I'm going to sleep. If I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. Like, I just don't. I've never understood the concept of not getting enough sleep. Sometimes I do, and when I do, I'm completely thrown off, and I'm like, oh no, everything's gonna have to get rearranged for me to get my sleep. Like, that is top priority over anything. That has come before relationships, that has come before money, that's come before a lot of things. I need my sleep. So, people who can't sleep, it just makes me think, like, what? How haven't you gotten to the point? Because I remember being a kid, and sometimes I would have insomnia because I'm thinking too much. I'm too much in my head, right? My thoughts are just running rampant, and I'm thinking about what's gonna happen at school tomorrow, and before I know it, I'm thinking about all the stuff that I did that I'm feeling ashamed about, and then before I know it, I'm thinking about something else, and so I know that it comes from that, right? And then to me, it's like, but I found a way to overcome that. I found a way to overcome that. And I know that, like, me not trusting people who can't sleep is me judging them because they weren't raised the same way that I was. I'm working through it, which is why I'm making this video. It's not to bash anybody who can't sleep, it's kind of to shed light on the topic. Like, it kind of puts a guard up for me. Like, it's a trigger when a person that I'm around or I'm dating and I find out, like, they can't sleep, like, they're up all night, and it's just unnerving to me. Like, if you can't control your mind and your thoughts to the point where it interrupts something that's so integral, something that's so important to our everyday lives, then how are you going to like be able to be a productive member of this relationship? Like, how are you going to be able to pull your own weight? How are you, like, it just makes me feel like I'm going to have to take care of you, and I just don't want to do that in a relationship. So like, that's why I can't trust people who can't sleep. Like, it's just, it's a matter of getting in control of your own thoughts and telling them to shut up when it's time for you to go to sleep. Simple to me, but I understand it's not simple to other people. And to kind of piggyback on that, I don't trust people who snore either. I think that that is like, to me, it's just demonic. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Like, I know. People have like serious sinus issues and whatever, but I just, that's just my thought on the situation. People who snore are demonic. Sorry, not sorry. So yeah, uh, what other types of people? People who gossip. I don't trust people who gossip. Not only because I know that they'll be talking about me behind my back, but just because, like, again, it kind of leans into the whole, like, you don't have nothing better to do with your life. Like, you're not in control of yourself and your emotions and your thoughts to the point that you have to be so fully immersed in other people's lives. Like, that just worries me. It makes me feel like I'm gonna have to constantly be on my P's and Q's around you. And I mean, I can be by myself and not have to deal with that. So why am I gonna introduce another person into the situation, just for the sake of having them around? And like, well, the thoughts that are coming up with that is, maybe this is an exercise in showing me like how selfish I really am and impatient I really am, and how much more grace I need to like be giving to people. And so, it is what it is. I think the first step would just be admitting that. So, yeah, I judge people for like really, yeah. And also, like, if you can't, usually this kind of goes hand in hand. If we're like sitting down having a conversation, you can't sit still. As an adult, like, you haven't found a way to, again, it goes back to regulation, like self-regulation. You can't sit still. We gotta fill every space with a meaningless conversation. You gotta constantly be somewhere. Like, you can't sit in the house and just chill out. Like, I just I think there's something wrong with that, honestly. And I can't date because I'm like the complete opposite, and I don't want anybody pulling me out of who I am. Like, that's the quickest way for me to be like, yo, this is not gonna work. Like, if I feel like I can't be my quiet introverted self around you, and I feel like you're trying to pull me out of my shell, like purposely trying to get me to do things like be like you and whatever, I just can't. Like, sure, I'll have my moments where I want to go out. Let's go on a date. Let's go have some fun. Let's go to like a open mic or a jazz thing or a concert or whatever. I do all of that stuff, but on a regular basis, 95% of the time during the week, let's say that during the work week, I like to live a very quiet life. I like to live a very quiet life, and I just don't trust people who don't live a quiet life. Okay, maybe I can rephrase that and say, like, I don't trust people who can't even entertain the thought of just sitting down every once in a while and being quiet, enjoying the silence. Why does it have to be awkward to you? Why does it have to be like, it just, I don't know. I don't know. And I remember, again, being younger and feeling like I did need to fill every silence, and feeling like, oh, if I don't say something, the person's not gonna like me, they're gonna think I'm boring or whatever. But I've like grown out of that. I've evolved out of that. So I just don't. I can't trust the person who. That means you're not growing and evolving. You're stuck in some place or whatever. And maybe my purpose is to kind of show you, like, hey, at least kind of illuminate the fact that you're stuck in a certain position. It doesn't always have to be that way. Just because you are that doesn't mean that you're that forever. You can change and evolve, and it's fine. There's no reason to fight against that. There's no reason, unless you're listening to what other people say, unless you're worried about people saying, oh, you changed, you're different, whatever, you're weird, unless you're worried about that. But at 32, I can't imagine being concerned with that type of stuff. Maybe like middle school, I would be concerned with that, elementary, even high school, but I'm a like whole 30 something year old woman. I can't be. Yeah. Um, who else don't I trust? People who are like extra nice or extra kind. Like they do the most. Let me use an example. So, like the lady I told you guys about who gave me the ride home, right? When she saw that I was like, that's kind, fine. And that's normal, that's acceptable, that's understandable. But if she would have, like, as we're riding, oh, give me your number and I can pick you up and I can take you home every now and then or whatever. Or if she would have just been like extra with the kindness, like, oh, you can come over to my house and, this and that, like that's to me is just a little bit too much, right? It's one thing, like, just do the act of kindness or whatever and then move on. So people who are just a little bit extra with it, like that kind of sets me off, and I'm like, I don't trust this person. I don't think, no, you're being a little bit like extra. Like another example, the other day I just got off the bus and I was walking to my destination, and this guy pulls over on the side of the road, and he's like, "You're beautiful," and I'm like, oh, "Okay, thank you," and I keep walking, and he's like, "Do you need a ride? Are you going far?" No, I'm not getting in the car with you because now it's gone beyond being kind. If you had led with, "Can I give you a ride?" I may have considered it as kindness and gotten in the car. But now you've already let me know that you see me as an object. You see me as a sexual, like you see me in a sexual way. Why am I going to put myself in harm's way if I get in the car with you? So just being mindful about the little nuances and like subtleties of people's language and the way that they approach you and what their intentions could possibly be. Yeah, because it's like, are you just giving me the ride because I'm beautiful? Like, yeah, I don't want to like, I don't want to fixate on that. So I'm just gonna keep moving along. Let's transition into time travel. So I don't know if I've mentioned this before in other videos, but a lot of these terms that are meant to be like things that are impossible or things that are like beyond reality or just not realistic, right, are actually realistic. We just need to change the way that we look at it. Stop looking at it as something that's impossible. Stop looking at it as something that is just a dream that somebody has made up and it's not feasible. It's not something that we can bring into the 3D and understand it from a 3D level. So yeah, people kind of stretch out a lot of these ideas. Like, for example, shapeshifting. I've talked about that in in a few other videos. Shapeshifting is really putting on different personalities, or even maybe not personalities, but putting on different faces, putting on different masks, putting on different energies in order to create a situation that you want to create. For example, you're in the business realm, you're not going to walk in there with your ass hanging out and whatever, right? As a woman, or as a man, you're not going to walk in there with your jeans hanging off your behind. Like, simple. Like, that's, to me, is shape shifting. We've given it a different term. We've called it code switching and acting professional and all of these different kind of things. But it's really, in actuality, shape shifting. Just understanding that certain situations and environments call for a certain type of behavior, call for a certain type of appearance, call for a certain type of energy. And being able to deliver that energy is the essence of shapeshifting. And so we can all perfect that. It's not just something that only certain people have the ability to do. Some people have mastered it, and that's why somebody would be given the label of a shapeshifter. And so when we watch these metaphysical shows and there's somebody on there that's a shapeshifter, it just simply means that they have mastered the art of manipulating energy in the form of appearance. They've mastered twisting reality to make it do whatever they want it to do. And so if we apply that same concept to time travel, basically anytime that you're thinking about the past, anytime that you're thinking about the future, you're time traveling. And so operating under the notion of our thoughts create reality, then you'll see how that in essence is what time travel really is. So do we need to get in a DeLorean and go whatever? Like that's a fantasization. Is that a word? I'm making it up if it's not. That is a fantasization or a fantasy of what time travel really is. But if we just break it down and make it very simple 3D, it's just simply thinking about the future and thinking about the past. And what happens when we think about the past? Let's look at we can go to the movies, we can use the fantasy version of time travel and apply it again to the 3D, make it very simple and break it down. So what happens typically when we travel in the past is we try to change things, and if we try to change things, like typically when you go in the past, like when a character goes in the past in a TV show or in a movie, they're just there to observe. And it's made known that if they do anything like interact with the characters or try to do something differently or try to interfere with what happened already, that it completely changes the present and the future. And so we don't want to do that because it has all these negative implications. And it could possibly be that you won't be able to go back to where you came from if you change the past because it won't exist anymore. And so what that tells us is two things. One, again, our thoughts create our reality. And two, if you, let's say you're laying in bed, and let's go back to the insomniacs. You're an insomniac, you're laying in bed and your thoughts are just racing. 9 times out of 10, you're either thinking about the past or you're thinking about the future. And your thoughts are creating that reality. And it's keeping you stuck in things that don't even exist anymore. Like, again, the operative concept of time travel is, even when you time travel to the future, you're not supposed to interfere with it either. And the reason for that is because it is just to reflect. When you reflect on the past, it's to say, okay, that happened. Keep yourself in remembrance of the things that happen so that you can move forward and maybe do things differently. Like, you have the present moment, it's a gift. That's why it's called the present. That's why it's called the present, because it is a gift. Because you have the opportunity to correct what happened in the past sometimes. You have the opportunity to make a different choice right now in the present moment. You have an opportunity to say something different, to do something different, to be something different, and then that creates something in the future. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts on time travel. And I think the other thing that I want to talk about, it's such a nice day. I was gonna go to a resort today, like, some hotels, they have like a day pass where you could like use their pool and like whatever. But I thought that it was gonna be rainy. That's what the forecast said, but it's so gorgeous. I'm almost regretting that I didn't go, but it's still early in the day. I might still be able to go. I've been like wanting to swim a lot lately, like just relax, sit in the hot tub. That kind of makes me miss living in Phoenix, living in the high rise. But yeah, I'm just gonna need to like buy a house and build all that stuff on it, on my land. That's what it's looking like the next step is going to be. But anyway, yeah. What is the next thing that I want to talk about? Something related to relationships. I did say at the beginning that one of the things that was on my mind was knowing, how do you know that you have found the right person? Somebody asked me this one time, and I told them that you're sort of like, you know, it's the right person because you're in alignment. But I want to kind of piggyback and extend the video that I did yesterday or the day before, one of those days, where I was talking about my ex coming back and trying to, be with me. And we finally were able, like, we were going back and forth, and I was like, you know, trying to get him to understand that by not being ready right now and being in my face, you're basically asking me to wait without asking me to wait. And he wasn't getting that concept. So I was finally like, okay, you don't motivate me to want to make this work. And if you're being honest with yourself, I don't motivate you either. And his response was in agreement. So then I'm like, okay, that is what got through to him. So, one, that was the way that I needed to communicate it. And two, yeah, being focused on, myself was just perpetuating the cycle. But when I put it onto him, made him think about what he's really doing. Because clearly you don't want to be with me. Clearly I don't motivate you. Because if I did, we wouldn't be having this. We would be having a totally different conversation. We would actually be together. You would actually be the man that you are promising that you want to be, right? And so I think that comes from, because I think, like, men know deep down inside that they're not going to reach their full potential, like full realized potential, until they find their mate. And women deep down inside realize that they have inside of them everything that is required for their person. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday, Hardly Initiated, and they were talking about what a man is. And one of the topics that came up, or one of the conversations that they had during the interview was, shit, I lost my train of thought because a freaking lizard walked by. Hey, dude. It's like chilling there. But anyway, one of the ways that the conversation went was they started talking about. It's gonna come back to me, guys. Hold on. Oh shoot. All right, backtrack. What were we talking about? We were talking about how you're the. All right, so he said that women, that he was listening to a Miles Monroe interview or talk, and Miles Monroe, no, or maybe it was a book that Miles Monroe wrote, and he was reading it or whatever, and he was reflecting on some of the things that were talked about in the book. By the way, Miles Monroe is dope. If, like, yeah, he has like some videos on YouTube. Listen, yes, on leadership and like a lot of different things. But anyway, so Miles Monroe basically suggested that women already come equipped with what is needed and necessary for men. Like, we're basically built for men. And in the interview on Hardly Initiated, he was saying that women nowadays, 2023 women, will be, will not want to hear that. They'll not want to hear about, they'll not want to be labeled or addressed as being built for men because from his perspective, he thinks that we're too independent and whatever, whatever. I think that just a simple shift in thinking needs to happen because that's what I think. I have that inside of me, right? I know that for sure. But the extension of that thought is every woman is built for a particular man. It's not just, oh, I can go find a man off the street right now and I'm going to be built for him. No. What I have inside of me is special and unique and for one person, one particular person. And I may find him tomorrow. I may have found him already. I may find him in the future. I may never find him because of my thoughts and how I, choose to view things. I may never find that person. And so that is what's really going on. So yes, every woman does come equipped with the exact things that a man needs in order to unlock his full potential. And it's just going to click. It's just going to be like a whatever. It's not a whatever, but it's just going to be like a flow of things. And because we're taught the opposite, like there is no such thing as the one, there is no such thing as, whatever, we think that we can just find any person off the street and make it work. And that's why it's not working, right? That's why relationships are not working in the way that they're supposed to, because there is in actuality one person for you. And so how do we know that we're in the right relationship? It's going to click. There's not going to be any like silly misunderstandings. Like one of them talked about how in his marriage, he took his wife to Paris, and he wants to, he basically is a hopeless romantic, and he wanted her to be all happy and all excited about being in Paris and whatever. And she was worried about being cold, and he like physically like, actually, I need a jacket, like I'm cold. Right. And because she wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe you took me to Paris and this is so amazing, because she wasn't all, she didn't act the way that he envisioned that she would act. She wasn't like, oh my God, you're so amazing. Thank you because she didn't react in that way. Right. It caused the problem, and they argued the whole time. And so I could be right or wrong about it. It doesn't matter. But to me, that's an indication of something that you're making work, when in actuality that is not that wasn't your person. That was just somebody that you met along the way that was supposed to be there to teach you a lesson, but you settled down with that person and you had kids and you tried to build a family, and then these are things that come of that. Like these are the natural consequences of not waiting for the person that is completely for you. That's just my opinion on the matter. I could be totally wrong because, again, I'm not in a committed relationship, so I don't know. But when I see stuff like that in relationships, like when I watch interviews and I see couples, and I'm like, there's no reason for all of these problems to be coming about. If that was your person, it would just click. And I remember saying that to Ramarla, like, it shouldn't be this hard. It should just click. We should just understand each other. There shouldn't be all these secrets. I shouldn't be finding out you got all these bodies in the closet, not meaning like he had all these people he slept with, but meaning he had all these secrets that every like few weeks or so I was finding out something new about him that he hid from me, that he lied to me about. And to me, that's not what my kingdom spouse, that's what the word is coming, that's the word that's coming up. So I'm just going to say it. That's not what my spouse would do. It would just be, we meet and it just all falls together. And if it doesn't, that's an indication that this is not the person. And so, of course, it's going to be work, but it's not going to feel like work. It's just going to be natural. Like, for example, when I talked about certain things that happened with Sora, like it was just, like I just innately knew what he needed. There was a time when we were spending time together and I could feel him getting agitated because he needed time alone. And the reason that I could feel that was because I feel that within myself. And I know, like, I felt that around people before. And instead of taking offense to that, instead of forcing him to be around me, and instead of whatever, I it was just like, I'll see you later. Like, I'm gonna go home or whatever, and I'll see you tomorrow. And the first time I did it, he was just like, okay, cool. And this, I don't know if like right after the second time I did it, or like during a different conversation, or during another time we spent time together, he brought it up, and how he was like, how do you know that, you know, how did you know to leave? Basically. And I didn't fully explain it to him. I was just like, because I don't remember what I said, but the feeling in me was, because I just innately know, like, I just knew that that's what you needed. Like, and I didn't take offense to it. I just went home. Like, and then we can come back tomorrow and hang out. Like, it doesn't have to be this drawn out thing. And so, just like little things like that. Just little things like that is how you know that a person is for you. And so I want to use that to transition into my last thought, which is something I was thinking about earlier today. One of the things that I was thinking about earlier today as I woke up, I'm going to wash my hair today because the gel is like, I don't know if you guys can see it, but the gel is, and it's like super whatever it's doing. I need to wash it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it after I wash it, but we're going to start with washing and then figure out what comes about after that. Now I forgot what I was going to talk about. Yes, there we go. Okay. There are things that we do, toxic ways that we behave as women, that makes it harder, that kind of damages men. Like, there are things that men do to women that damage women, but there are things that women do to men that damage them and make them think. And the reason why, I'm gonna start with another example of Sora and I's relationship. Because he was used to dealing with women who needed all of his attention and took offense to the fact that he needed his personal space, and took offense to the fact that he just needed some time to be alone and reflect. They didn't understand that about him because that was not present within them. These are the dangers of being around, being in intimate settings and intimate relationships with people who are not your person, people who are not in alignment with you. It kind of molded him to be, it kind of molded him to, one, believe that that was a healthy relationship, and that was what women really needed, and that was what he needed to be in order to be in a relationship with women. And so that caused a few different dysfunctions. One of them is within him. It caused him to think that he wasn't good enough for a relationship, because here he is naturally internally feeling like, damn, I just need my space. Like, I just need a little moment to reflect. And I'm feeling like she's making me feel guilty for that. She's making me feel like I'm not ready for a relationship because I just need to be on my own for a little second. Like, I just need to, and society, not only her, but society in general is telling me that that is not correct. Like, I need to be giving all of my attention to my woman, or she's gonna want to be with somebody else. And so this thought of, those thoughts, what they create is insecurity. They create a feeling of not being good enough. They create a feeling of, they create a space of lack, really. And so, not being aware of that and being told like that's what a relationship is, but it doesn't, if it doesn't feel right to you in your spirit, then that's not what your relationship is supposed to look like. So just getting out of this whole like letting society tell us what love is, letting society tell us what a relationship is supposed to look like, letting society tell us what a man is and what a woman is and what their roles are and what it's letting society tell us anything is what we need to back away from in order to start having healthy, functional relationships. And then so that's what happened to him. That's what it created in him internally. But then in his relationships with women, it pushed, like, I was probably, I'm not going to be arrogant and say that I'm the one, but I was probably the closest he'd ever come to alignment within himself and who he truly is. And he pushed me away because he was like feeling like, okay, maybe she's not the one because she's not forcing me to be around her. She's not demanding all of my time. She's not jealous. She's not all of these things that he had assumed and he had been taught and he had been reinforced that this is what women do when they want you. This is what women do when they are interested in you or interested in a relationship with you. This is what women do when they, are open to being with you. And it was a complete lie. And that's where a lot of the conflict between us stemmed out of. Because I had already gotten over all of that stuff of, I think, not even get over, I have always stood firm in, I'm not going to allow any relationship to change me. This is how I want to be in a relationship. This is who I am. And if I feel like I have to abandon that to be with you, I'm going to walk away from it. And so I have always walked away from relationships. Again, my longest relationship was 2 years. And that was when I was younger. The older I've gotten, the easier it is for me to just be like, yo, this is not it. Peace. And so it caused a lot of problems in our relationship. If he would have just settled into who he is. Another great example of this is I was dating a guy a few months ago, like a month or two ago. Not even dating, we were just getting to know each other. I wouldn't consider it a date. We were just hanging out. He took me to church with him a couple times, and we decided after church, let's go see a movie. So he wanted to see some anime movie or whatever. I'm not into anime, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm into anime just to impress a guy that I'm around. Even if I liked him, I still wouldn't pretend like I like anime. Just because I've realized that that just causes problems down the line. And so, and another example of that is I was watching a Tyler Perry. I've been binge watching a Tyler Perry TV show, and one of the things that they mentioned in there was, women can pretend like they like basketball or sports or whatever, and then come to find out they don't really like it, but they pretend they like it to impress a man that they like. And we're accepting this as natural and normal behavior, but it's toxic, it's dysfunctional. It leads to more toxicity and more dysfunctional stuff, more dysfunction. And we're not realizing it because it has become so normal and integrated into society in the way that we deal with each other that we think it's normal for. I remember being young and pretending like I like sports to appease a guy, and then getting it and realizing I don't like sports, and now I have to sit here and watch this stuff, and it's boring as hell. And now I have to endure this all because I like this guy. But then what really drove the point home for me, what really made me realize I don't need to do that, is he was not willing to do the same. I was willing to make all of these sacrifices and all of these whatevers for him, but when it came down to things that I like and things that I wanted to do, it was a no. We always had to watch what he wanted to watch. We always had to do what he wanted to do. We always had to be immersed in his interest and his whatever. And it was never anything about, oh, well, Rashida, what do you like to watch? Let's watch your show every now and then. Let's, whatever. And I remember that was with Junior. Junior was my high school sweetheart. So we're talking late teens, early 20s. I'm learning this lesson of not abandoning who I am in order to be with a man, in order to be in a relationship with a man. And so I put that down a long time ago because I realized that it's not leading to any of the things that I want. And so let's go back to, just don't pretend that you like things. All right, so we were talking about the movie situation. So we went to the movies and he wanted to watch this anime show. I don't like anime and I'm not going to sit through a 2-hour long movie of anime. I don't care how much I like you. And so I told him I'm not into anime. And he was explaining to me, because at the time I was entertaining an idea. I had a job offer basically on the table to go to Korea and teach. I ended up not taking the job, but during the time I was thinking about it, and so I had brought it up to him, and I was like, what do you think about this or whatever. So to him, he made the assumption that I was into anime because I wanted to go to Korea and teach. And I get where that thought would have come from, but we had a conversation, and I told him that I don't really care for Korean culture. I just want to go abroad and teach. And it's really about me being able to travel, because Korea is right there by the Philippines. It's right there by Thailand. It's right there by China. It's right there by Japan. Like, the flights in and out, super cheap than it would be from the US, and super short, like much shorter than it would have been, because I hate long flights. And so we had a conversation about that. I told him I'm not really into anime. Like, I'm not really into Korean culture. I'm just like, I'm worried about the food, because honestly, best I can do is sushi, but sushi's not Korean. It's Japanese. And when I was in China, I really didn't eat the cuisine there either. Luckily, they accept a lot of cultures, so like I was able to find like foods that I like to eat while I was there, and I did a lot of my own cooking. So like I just don't. And so his excuse was, I chose the anime movie because you said that you like anime. You said that you want to go to Korea, so I thought that it would be a good movie. No. So that goes to show you don't give a fuck, basically. You're not listening to anything that I'm saying. You're not invested in me because, one, I already told you I'm not into Korean culture, and because you're into anime and you're trying to impose that onto me, you're trying to make it seem like it was my idea. And then so, I'm thinking all of this in my head. I'm already like fucking turned off. But we go to the movies anyway. And so I'm like, well, you can go see the anime movie and I will go see Haunted Mansion, because that's what I wanted to see. It had just come out at the time, and Tiffany Haddish was in there, and I thought it was going to be like, yeah. So I wanted to see that movie. And so I told him that that's what we were going to do. We're going to go to the movies together. The movies both started at the same time. They both ended around the same times. So go watch your movie and I'll go watch my movie. Very simple compromise. I don't understand why it had to be like a whole thing or whatever. He was like, but what would be the point of doing that? Like, what? And I was very calm about it. I'm like, listen, I don't want to see your movie. You don't want to see my movie. What's wrong with going to the movies together and seeing separate movies? So that's what we ended up doing. He texted me like as the movie first started, and he was like, basically under the vibe of he was still trying to fight for me to come and see the movie with him, basically. We're not going to get into what was said specifically because honestly I don't remember. But my hair is just like everywhere. I need to go wash it. But yeah, so he was basically trying to text me, trying to get me into his movie. And I was like, I'm enjoying my movie. Oh, he was complaining about his movie. He was saying, "Oh, it's boring or whatever." And I was like, "Well, mine is really interesting. If you want to come over," and I gave him the theater number or whatever, and where I was sitting. So he came, and I waved my hand. He came and sat down. And as I mentioned, he's a very religious. We went to church together. So Haunted Mansion is really about the paranormal, supernatural, that type of stuff. So the scene where they were doing a séance came on, and he got so offended that he got up and walked out. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I'm going to continue watching my movie. He texted me, oh, well, my movie is getting good if you want to come over and see it. And I was like, no, I'm enjoying my movie too much. Like, basically, I'm not, because this whole thing was for me to get to the point. Like, and this is the thing, right? We're in our 30s. Why are we doing these games? Why are we doing these games? There are several things he could have done in that situation. He could have been honest and said, hey, I'm not comfortable with going to see separate movies. And I would have been like, cool, take me home. He could have said, hey, I would rather for you to watch my movie with me. It just makes me feel like, it would make me feel good if you came and watched my movie with me. Then I have a decision to make. I can say yes or no or whatever. He could have did that. Chose not to. Like, there are so many different options, and he just wanted to keep playing these games. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and do that. So we get to the end of the movies, and we're in the car driving home, and he starts talking about his movie, how great it was and everything that happened and whatever. And I was like, okay, cool, that's awesome. He was like, oh yeah, I had a storyline and whatever. And he kept like throwing out jabs at my movie, like basically, oh, it wasn't some stupid whatever. Like, I don't remember specifically what he said, but basically he was trying my movie, like basically saying that my movie wasn't as deep and integral as his was. It didn't have a storyline, when in actuality it did have a storyline. If you watch The Haunted Mansion, it's about this man who lost his wife, and the struggles that he's going through with that, and there were other storylines intertwined into that. And yes, it was comedy and all these other things on top of it, but at the base it really did have a deep storyline. And so he was acting like a real asshole. So he dropped me off, and I never talked to him again. I blocked him, deleted his number, blocked him. And so that kind of goes a long drawn out story to kind of prove what I was talking about. Like, that type of stuff just kind of, and maybe it's not women who do that to men. Maybe it's just ego that men have, and they feel like, oh, all of my interests, and women do it too. He should be interested in everything that I'm interested in, or it means that we shouldn't be together, or vice versa. And so we look for all of these false confirmations that a person is in alignment with us, when in actuality, if I were to, like, let's say when he suggested the anime movie, and I was like, oh, okay, let's go see the anime movie, that would be that would turn into a codependent relationship. We would be connecting on a codependent level. And he wouldn't even have realized that, because it's the trauma. It's the deep lack of feeling like you need somebody to agree with you. You need somebody to like the things that you like. That is dysfunction. It's toxic. Very subtle, because we don't even, again, society normalizes that. They tell us that that's how you know that a relationship is for you, and it feels good. It feels good when somebody likes something that you like. But it's toxic. It's toxic. Naturally, if they like something you like, great. But in reality, most of the time, you're going to get in a relationship with somebody, y'all are going to have separate interests. Naturally. Because women and men have separate interests, naturally. And that is a healthy thing. It's healthy to have separate interests. I remember we got to the point, Sova and I, in a relationship where he had met this other girl, and he was throwing up in my face that because he liked to walk on a tightrope, like, you know how you have to balance or whatever and walk across like a rope or whatever. He liked to practice that. That was his thing or whatever. He liked to do that, and he wanted me to be interested in it, and I just wasn't, because I understand, like, my body type, it's going to be 10 times harder for me to walk on a tightrope than it would be for somebody who has a slimmer body type. And so just understanding that, I just wasn't interested in it. I'm going to try it, of course. I'm going to try to center myself. I'm going to focus on the other things, because there's a lot that goes into walking a tightrope. You have to center yourself. You have to, it's basically a form of meditation. And so I looked at it in that form, and I'm like, well, I prefer to meditate in another type of way. And because I wasn't interested in walking on a tightrope in the way, I wasn't interested in the form of meditation that he liked, he took that as, oh, she must not be into me. She must not belong. She must not be the one. So he threw up in my face that the new girl was, you know, she was all excited about getting on the tightrope, and he showed it to her. She was all excited, and she was like, oh, this is cool, and whatever, whatever. Like, that felt good to him. That was a nice little ego stroke for him. But in reality, that girl just wanted him for what she looked like. And I knew this when he told me that they were talking or whatever. Like, I don't see you as a threat, not because I'm arrogant or anything, but because I see you. I see what you want him for. And I could have been a little bit more vocal with him about what I was feeling, but I knew that it would have just come off as jealousy to him. So I just let him do his thing. You want to go sleep with her and do whatever? Go ahead. Go ahead. You're going to find out what I already know. Now, if you want to respect me, at some point, that respect will be built up. Like, to me, the way that I deal with men is I allow them to come to their own conclusions. I'm not going to be the nagger. I'm not going to be the one that's bitching at you constantly to change and to do whatever. No. You are going to come to that realization on your own, right? And so I'm just going to sit right here and observe and watch. And when you come and ask me about something, I'm going to let you know my opinion and what I think about it. And I'm going to let you know one time. Because he would ask me, like, what do you think about her or whatever? She's not me. Simple. And he would be like, oh, well, no one is going to be like you. That's the whole point. You're supposed to have different types of people around. Okay. We'll see how that plays out for you. That would literally be my attitude about it. And then so what I guess the point that I want to make about it, like the extension of that point is, eventually through trial and error, it will get to the point to where he humbles himself and he views me as, and he uses me for the wisdom that I have in the correct way to prevent him from putting himself in positions that are going to harm him. Because dealing with that girl harmed him. Dealing with all the other girls harmed him. So eventually he'll get to the point where he's like, let me listen to what she has to say the first time. Let me come to her for some guidance. Let me humble myself and ask her what she thinks about certain situations, and, you know, whatever. Let me lean on her for the things that she is here to provide for me. Eventually he'll get to that point. So all I have to do is sit here and be patient and look pretty. Like, that's pretty much, and just be me, honestly. I don't need to, and again, because he had been taught and reinforced that jealousy and women acting all, you know, getting into it with each other over him and whatever, like that was how you know that a woman wants you and whatever, she fights for you. And because I wasn't doing all of that, that was another reason for him to think that we shouldn't be together, and it caused even more problems. And so, you know, eventually we come to a place of understanding, however long it takes. And so that's the process we're in right now, where it's like, you'll get it. So I'm going to let you go off and figure it out. That's what it means to be a woman. Not needing the credit, not needing for him to do it right now, not needing any of that other stuff. Like, there's so many examples that are coming up. Like, another example would be living with a man, and I don't force men to take out the trash or to do anything. I just do it, right? And it depends, because when it comes to the cleaning aspect, I just let them know, because I'm gonna clean regardless, right? I have a ritual, I clean anyway. So I'm not necessarily expecting you to clean, but I am expecting you to respect when I have cleaned up the house and to keep it that way. And so I remember living with this guy a long time ago, because now I don't live with guys, but when I was doing that, I was living with this guy, and I remember, because he met me, I had my own place. He came over, and my place is always spotless consistently. Every time you come over, it is not junky. You can come over on Tuesday, it's not junky. Sunday, it's not junky. Morning, night, whenever you, after I just got home from work, it's still not junky. I've been home all day, it's still not. So you've seen me through all the seasons. You know that I'm naturally, perpetually a clean person, right? So we moved in together, and he's messy, and he has his shit all over the place. So I just calmly told him, listen, you need to clean this up. And he wanted to get out, and I was just like, hold on. When you met me, was I a clean person or not? Okay, point made. And he was like, he quickly had to just pull back and be like, okay, you're right. Yeah, I'm right. Because what are you doing right now? That's how men understand things. So this whole nagging thing, it's never going to get anywhere to them. That's how children act too. You can't do that with children either. Children, the nagging and the yelling goes in one ear and out the other. Same thing with men. You have to use logic. You have to help them become aware of the situation. Bring it to them on a respect level. My house was clean before you got here. Respect me by keeping it clean. Simple. Don't have to get into the whole, I'm not about to clean up behind you and blah, 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 blah. Even though all of that, I'm not about to clean up behind you, but I don't need to. Me communicating that to you is not going to bring me the result that I want, which is you keeping my house clean. Cleaning up behind yourself, very simple. Like, for example, he was a smoker or whatever, and like blunt wraps and like all of this garbage is everywhere. Listen, and the table's full of it. Listen, it's not gonna work. It's not going to work. And we just had to have that conversation one time. And when I tell you, all the way to the end of our relationship, I never had to speak to him again about it. So just like, that's that type of stuff. Like, that's what it means to be a woman. Like, not the, oh, you constantly out here with all these women, and you won't clean up the house, and it's never gonna get him to do anything differently. Never. It's not gonna help anything. It's just gonna drive a wedge further in between you guys. Same thing with the trash. I think I mentioned it before. So trash I handle a little bit differently because I handle it pretty much the same way that I do with the cleaning, actually. When you weren't here, I took out my own trash. So I'm going to continue to take out my own trash until you make it known to me that you would prefer to take out the trash. So that happened with one guy, and he was like, we're actually living as like roommates, not together. And so he was like, oh, well, the trash goes out tomorrow, doesn't it? And I was like, yeah, it does. Just randomly, like I'm sitting there eating my food. Like I just come home, I made something to eat, I'm sitting down eating. He comes up to me randomly. The trash goes out tomorrow, doesn't it? And I was like, yeah, it does. And he was like, I'll take it out tonight. I was like, okay. And then I went back to eating. And so I wake up because I get up early in the morning to go to work. And so I get up and I see that the trash can is still there. I didn't say anything to him. I just took it out to the front. And when I got home, he had brought it back in. And then so that's simple. Nothing really needed to be said. I bet you the next time the trash needs to go out next week, he's going to take it out the night before. I bet you. I'll give you guys an update on that. And that's how you deal with men. Like, very simple. You hold them accountable. You don't gotta nag and talk all this crap and go back and forth with them. Just get down to the simple point. You said you was gonna take it out the night before. You didn't, so I did. And all this is done non-verbally. I bet you he takes it out next week, the night before. And if he doesn't, I'll get on here and I'll tell you guys. But I'm almost like 95% sure that he will. And I didn't have to say anything. He took it upon himself to say, I'm sitting there minding my business, eating my food. Oh, the trash tomorrow. Okay, I'll take it out. Okay. Wake up in the morning. Oh, it's not taken out because I knew he wasn't going to do that. Because he was looking for me to, oh, you said you were going to take out the trash and you didn't and blah, blah, blah. What am I doing all of that for? When it takes 5 seconds to drag the trash out to the front. And I could have taken another approach. I could have waited for him to do it, but then we would have had to wait a whole week and the trash can would have gotten full up, and I don't like that. I don't like when there's trash everywhere. So I just took it out. And that's the way that men operate. That's the way they communicate. You hold them accountable. You show them where they have fallen short, and you don't have to throw it up in their face. They just automatically see it and correct it. It doesn't have to be spoken about. Women are different. We like to talk about things. We like to sit down and have a meeting and let's talk about what needs to change and what needs to happen. Men are not that way. He probably forgot. We don't need to get into why he didn't do it. It doesn't matter. Fact is, he didn't do it. Fact is, I need him to be accountable for his actions. So we'll see how this ends up being. I hope that was helpful for somebody. At the very least, I was able to get some thoughts out. And yeah, see, you guys can see right there. All that gel and stuff needs to be washed. Yeah, anyway, till next time. Be well.